Queensland is facing a new threat as a second man who tested positive for coronavirus held a party for 25 people after being told to isolate while awaiting test results. The man in his 20s is a friend of Brisbane's earlier community transmitted COVID case. 15 new venues have now been added to the list of exposure sites. The state's coronavirus cluster has already seen parts of the country move to impose restrictions on interstate travel.
Long lines and plenty of masks at testing clinics across Greater Brisbane as COVID concerns descend once again. Of the 6,881 tests yesterday, so far there's only been one new case of community transmission. He's a friend of the 26-year-old Stafford landscaper who tested positive on Thursday. Mama's Italian restaurant at Redcliffe is now considered high risk after the landscaper dined there last Sunday, arriving just after midday.
What we learnt in the last 24 hours is this gentleman had actually been at the restaurant for almost 3 hours.
Contact tracing is underway to find other diners.
Don't wait for the call.
There are also urgent calls for anyone who visited Carindale Shopping Centre between noon and 2:16 p.m. last Saturday to come forward.
We just want to rule out every single possibility here.
The landscaper's case is linked to a doctor at the Princess Alexandra Hospital who tested positive earlier this month after treating COVID patients from overseas. Genomic testing shows both have the same UK variant, but the source of his remains a mystery.
There's every chance we won't find it because we know people, of course, can get infected and be totally asymptomatic and then pass it on.
While the next 48 hours are crucial, at this stage the lockdown won't spread beyond restrictions on visitors to hospitals and aged care facilities, which means for now the Easter holidays are safe. The rest of Australia is already cracking down. All Queensland arrivals in Perth are being shunted straight into self-quarantine.
I did expect the rules to change when I was on the plane, and it did.
At last night's AFL match in Geelong, Brisbane fans who'd travelled to watch the Lions play the Cats were told to leave. The Victorian government is asking anyone who's been to a high-risk site to get tested and self-isolate, and you will need an orange zone permit. If you're heading to New South Wales or Tasmania and visited the high-risk sites during the relevant times, you are now prohibited from entering. If you are already there, you need to self-isolate. If you have entered Western Australia or South Australia from March 20th and attended any of the locations, you must also self-quarantine. In the ACT, they'll also stop you from entering health and aged care facilities. And some Queensland sporting teams are taking action. Broncos players took a COVID test before today's match and crowds were advised to wear masks. Sally Eales, ABC News.
Live now to Jessica Rendell. And Jess, we found out tonight that this man had a party when he was supposed to be isolating. What happens now?
Well, Jess, what happens now is the 25 people who attended that party have all been placed into quarantine while contact tracers assess the full extent of this situation. Now, they have released a very long list of contact tracing locations, and I'll go through a few of them now, but check the Queensland Health website for the exact dates and times. Now, there's breweries in East Brisbane and Tenerife, the Eaton's Hill Hotel, and multiple locations around Strathpine and Launton. Now, those places were between last Saturday and this past Thursday. Now, in the midst of all of this, Queensland continues to record multiple cases in hotel quarantine, and the Premier has called on the Prime Minister to halve our intake because today we recorded 5 new cases and our total active cases is 71. That's the highest number in the country at the moment. Our hospitals are currently at the same levels that they were at the peak of the pandemic last year. So the Premier has just asked that for the next 2 weeks, can we please halve our intake so that health authorities can focus on the current unfolding situation of a potential outbreak here in Brisbane. Jess?
Thanks for the update. Jessica Rendell reporting there.